This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. It's Monday, February 17th, 2025. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning. Deadly winter weather taking hold on the U.S.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio met Sunday with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem. I'm Donna Warder.
Another American busted at a Russian airport.
On Wall Street, it's quiet for this President's Day holiday. Stocks are coming off a winning week for the major averages. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The Basketball Hall of Fame has announced its 17 finalists for Class of 2025 consideration. I'm Gethin Kulva.
At Chicago's Shedd Aquarium, the animal care team is welcoming a new beluga to its pod. I'm Haya Panjwani.
All ahead on America in the Morning. At least 9 people died in what was a harsh weather weekend across the United States, and concerns continue into this week with extreme cold expected for the northern plains and temps near -30 close to the Canadian border. Heavy snow expected in New York and New England, and bitter cold in the forecast in places like Texas and Oklahoma. In parts of the southeast over the weekend, it was the heavy rain that led to flooding. At least 8 people killed in Kentucky.
So many of these fatalities were due to attempts to drive through water and through moving water.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear.
This emergency phase we're in is going to last at least a couple more days. That's the type of event we're dealing with, and we're going to be actively dealing with this flood for probably the next week.
2 of the dead include a mother and her young son who were stuck in their car in high water. Hundreds of people were rescued, and the recovery and response just beginning, according to the governor.
A lot of people are going to be harmed throughout this event, and they are going to need our help to rebuild after. That's why we've opened a new fund, the Team Kentucky Storm Relief Fund, that people can start donating to now to help out our friends and our neighbors with both the needs they'll have over the next week, but also what it'll take to get them back on their feet.
In Tennessee, a nursing home was evacuated because of high water.
So we're having to evacuate the residents there, and we're bringing the majority of them here to Macon County High School.
Macon County, Tennessee Sheriff Joey Wilburn spoke with News Channel 5 in Nashville.
Flash flooding, where it really hits hard, hits quick, that's the problems we have to navigate. And they took care of the critical patients first, and then we're getting the more mobile, more stable patients to the high school.
Elsewhere, the National Weather Service in Birmingham, Alabama confirmed an EF1 tornado touchdown in Hale County. In Atlanta, a person was killed when a tree fell on a house. All Americans today, no matter where they are, asked to heed all-weather warnings. Secretary of State Marco Rubio endorsing Israel's plan for dealing with Hamas. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio met Sunday with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem, and Rubio says that President Donald Trump has made it clear what his stance is when it comes to Hamas.
Hamas cannot continue as a military or government force. And frankly, as long as it stands as a force that can govern, or as a force that can administer, or as a force that can threaten by use of violence, peace becomes impossible. They must be eliminated. It must be eradicated.
Trump also has proposed transferring Palestinians out of Gaza and redeveloping it under U.S. ownership. Netanyahu said Sunday that he and Trump have a common strategy, including, quote, when the gates of hell will be opened, end quote, if all the hostages are not released. I'm Donna Warder.
The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, has moved to dismiss 6 of its own cases on behalf of workers alleging gender identity discrimination. They argue the cases now conflict with President Trump's recent executive order. The requests by the EEOC mark a major departure from its prior interpretation of civil rights law. Just last year, the EEOC updated its guidance to specify that deliberately using the wrong pronouns for an employee or refusing them access to bathrooms, corresponding with their gender identity constituted a form of harassment. The EEOC seeking to dismiss 3 cases in Illinois, as well as one in Alabama, New York, and California. In each case, the original complaints alleged discrimination against transgender or gender nonconforming workers. The agency cites Trump's January 20th order declaring that government would recognize only 2 immutable sexes, male and female, as the reason why it no longer intends to pursue those cases. It's off to the races for the Trump administration. Literally, he was at the race. We'll tell you which one when America in the Morning returns after this. Bone-chilling cold across much of the United States as we wake up on this Monday. Let's sort it out with meteorologist Matt Rinde.
An incredible storm that moved across the country, spreading snow through most of the central and northern plains states, and then continued into the Great Lakes and Northeast, also producing icing in many areas, along with severe thunderstorms across the southeast as the cold front moved through. This system will now be the main driver of colder air entering the U.S. from Canada through the plains into the Great Lakes and Northeast. Even the southeast, there will be some impact. Lake effect snow will once again impact areas near the Great Lakes with several inches of snow possible through the day. There will also be widespread snow showers through the Ohio Valley into the central Appalachians with a few inches possible in the mountains. The coldest effects of this push will be in the northern plains, where highs for today will be in the teens below zero from eastern Montana in North Dakota and northern South Dakota, and single digits as far south as Nebraska and Iowa, as well as northern Illinois and eastward to Wisconsin. This will generally range from 25 to 40 degrees below the historical average. Even the highs in the 30s, 40s, and 50s through the Tennessee Valley into the southeast will be about 5 to 15 degrees below average. Rain and snow will fall across parts of the northwest today, with the energy from the system shifting into the Rockies and Plains. Snow will continue into southern South Dakota as well as Nebraska, and then streaking out into southern Iowa and northern Missouri. And this will continue to expand into Kansas and northern Oklahoma tonight, as well as eastward to Illinois. That's the weather across America. It's going to be very cold in Bismarck, North Dakota today, with some peaks of sunshine and a high of 11 below zero. If you're looking for warmer weather, Yuma, Arizona will have plenty of sunshine and a high of 81. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rinde.
Remember to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President Trump traveled to Daytona Beach yesterday to attend the Daytona 500. In a message released by the White House while Trump was on his way to the event, the president said, quote, "From the roar of the engines on the track to the echo of the Star-Spangled Banner soaring through the stands, the Daytona 500 is a timeless tribute to the speed, strength, and unyielding spirit that makes America great." The president added that spirit is what will fuel America's golden age if we harness it. "The future is ours," Trump said. Air Force One buzzed the Daytona International Speedway before it landed, and his motorcade arrived at the speedway by driving onto the track. Trump's limo later led drivers on 2 ceremonial laps, and he went on the radio to urge the drivers to have fun.
This is your favorite president. I'm a big fan. I am a really big fan of you people that you do this. I don't know, but I just want you to be safe. You're talented people, and you're great people and great Americans. Have a good day. Have a lot of fun, and I'll see you later.
This was the second time Trump attended the Daytona 500 while in the Oval Office. His first appearance was back in 2020 when he was given the honor of being the Grand Marshal. A Moscow court has ordered a U.S. citizen suspected of drug smuggling held in pretrial detention for 30 days. Now, the announcement comes just days after a Moscow-Washington prisoner swap that the White House called a diplomatic thaw and a step toward ending the fighting in Ukraine. The U.S. citizen, who was identified as Kalab Wayne Byers, was detained after airport customs officials found cannabis-laced marmalade in his bag. Russian police said the 28-year-old had tried to smuggle a significant amount of drugs into the country. The agency said the American was detained at a Moscow airport after flying in from Istanbul. MASH, which is a Russian telegram channel with links to security services, said that the U.S. citizen faces as much as 7 years in prison. paving the way for artificial intelligence. We've got Monday Business when America in the Morning returns after these messages. Monday Business brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Monday Business.
Wall Street's closed today for the President's Day holiday 2025 so far. Pretty strong for stocks. The S&P 500 index is up about 4% so far this year. Some investors bracing for what's called seasonality, though. The rest of February could be a little volatile.
Investors are very, very worried right now. When you look at that, we probably see more volatility. I mean, to think this year was going to be the only year without bad news, without bad days, without probably a 10% peak to trough correction, we think it makes sense. Just prepare probably for more volatility. And honestly, the first half of a post-election year, that's usually when you get it.
Carson Group's Ryan Dietrich on CNBC. President's Day weekend is the unofficial start to the spring home buying season. There were some open houses around. Could be a few more homes on the market, too, where you live to look at, but it's still a hard time for many to find a home.
The average rate on the 30-year fix jumped to 7.13%, according to Mortgage News Daily. That's the highest rate in nearly a month. It's the President's Day weekend, which is kind of the unofficial start of the spring housing market. As for home buyers, mortgage demand dropped again last week. It's pricey and lean out there and not very good.
CNBC's Diana Olick. Supply of homes is up about 25% right now over last year, though not all of those homes are new listings. Many are just homes that have been sitting on the market for a long time, not selling over the holidays or because they're priced too high. Retailers had a rotten January. We got the official retail sales numbers for last month on Friday, heading into the holiday weekend, and consumers pulled back from strong holiday spending. But what's on sale for President's Day today? Consumer advocate Clark Howard says furniture, mattresses, and winter clothing should be on discount. The flu has been sweeping the nation and taking productivity down with it.
We're having a spike in flu that's pretty severe, probably the worst flu season that we've seen since 2002. It appears to be H1N1 and H3N2, so a mix of both of those. The vaccine does seem to be protective. The flu vaccine seems to be more protective against H1N1. Hospitalizations are starting to go up. The national average is about 8%. In the South, it's about 10%. So we are having a pretty bad flu season.
Former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb on CNBC. It is a big travel week for families. Lots of schools are closed this whole week in different parts of the country for the President's Week winter break. While they're traveling, you might want to do some comparison shopping for travel deals for later in the spring and summer. Those will quickly disappear as the weather gets better. And if you're driving today or this week for a little getaway, you're enduring a hit to the wallet. Prices at the pump rose heading into the long holiday weekend. AAA says the national average for a gallon of regular gas as of Friday was $3.16. That's up about 9 cents a gallon over the past month.
What could changes to the CHIPS Act mean for AI growth and consumers? Correspondent Julie Walker tells us.
President Trump has threatened tariffs on semiconductors, arguing production must be returned to the U.S. But he's also criticized a Biden-era law designed to revive domestic semiconductor manufacturing by providing billions for computer chips and scientific research. Trump has called the federal contracts made with the help of the CHIPS and Science Act ridiculous and said companies didn't need money to prioritize chip making in the U.S., signaling Trump doesn't support the program. Experts warn that type of policy would harm consumers and hamstring the U.S. competitive edge in developing chips. I'm Julie Walker.
A new resident for One American Aquarium. We'll tell you who and where when America in the Morning returns on the other side of this. The Basketball Hall of Fame has announced its finalists for the class of 2025. Correspondent Gethin Kulba reports.
Players include Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, Marcus Johnson, and Buck Williams. Women's players Sue Bird, Sylvia Fowles, Maya Moore, and Jennifer Azzi are also finalists. The 2008 U.S. men's basketball team that won a gold medal in Beijing is also a finalist, as are coaches Billy Donovan, Mark Few, Jerry Walsh, and referee Danny Crawford. Heat managing partner Mickey Arison is also among consideration in the contributor category. The new class will be announced April 5th in San Antonio. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
An aquarium in Chicago has a new resident. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
At Chicago's Shed Aquarium, the animal care team is welcoming a new beluga to its pod. Baby Boy Beluga, his current moniker, is slowly being introduced to the rest of the Shed's pod of 8 whales. Aquarium members are voting on options for the calf's name. It's hard to gather research about belugas. Much of what humans know about them comes from aquariums. Charlie Jacobsma is the director of animal behavior and training at Shed Aquarium.
If you think about it, in the wild, they're in ice packs and they're in these remote areas that are harder to research and develop. Here at Shed, we have morphometrics that we gather all the time, and our animals are trained voluntarily to participate in their own health care.
What surprises caretakers the most about this young whale and the rest of the pod? Tongue tickles.
I don't know who the first person was to put their hand in a beluga's mouth to figure it out, but it's very sensitive in their mouth, probably from the prey that they eat on the bottom of the ocean, though.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
America in the Morning for Monday, February 17th, 2025 is produced by Alex Hinton. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout, and this is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Here's what's coming up this half hour.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear says many of the deaths in his state from the storms were caused by vehicles getting stuck in high water. I'm Julie Walker.
The Trump administration appealing to the U.S. High Court.
Israel says it plans to move forward with President Trump's proposal to move Palestinians out of Gaza. I'm John Stolness in Washington.
More federal workers wait for their pink slips. I'm Rich Johnson.
The BAFTAs and the WGA Awards were held this weekend. Who were the big winners? I'm Kevin Carr.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Bitter cold temps being felt across much of the United States as we wake up on this Monday. Here's meteorologist Matt Rinde.
A storm in the northwest will produce rain along the coast today and snow in the mountains, and energy from that system will be shifting into the Rockies and Plains. Snow from that energy will continue into the southern parts of South Dakota, into Nebraska, and then streaking out into southern Iowa and northern Missouri. This will continue to expand tonight into Kansas and northern Oklahoma, as well as eastward to Illinois. This could produce several inches of snow and slippery travel. Snow in the Rockies will be upwards of a foot. And an incredible storm that moved across the country had a very strong cold front with it. It is producing very strong winds today across the Great Lakes and the Northeast, with some gusts up to 60 miles per hour possible. This system is also the main driver of colder air entering the U.S. from Canada through the plains into the Great Lakes and Northeast. Even the Southeast, there will be some impact. Lake effect snow will once again cover areas near the Great Lakes with several inches of snow possible through the day. And there'll also be widespread snow showers through the Ohio Valley into the central Appalachians with a few inches possible in the mountains. The coldest effects of this push will be in the northern plains, where highs for the day will be in the teens below zero from eastern Montana into North Dakota and northern South Dakota, and single digits as far south as Nebraska into Iowa and northern Illinois and eastward to Wisconsin. This will generally range from 25 to 40 degrees below the historical average, and even the highs in the 30s, 40s, and 50s through the Tennessee Valley into the southeast will range from 5 to 15 degrees below average. Where is it going to be a little warmer today? South of the cold front in Florida, temperatures will be reaching into the 70s and 80s, with a few 70s and 80s from South Texas westward through southern Arizona and southern California. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rinde.
Remember to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The latest blast of winter weather has claimed the lives of at least 9 people. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear says many of the deaths in his state from the storms, including a mother and her 7-year-old child swept away in their car by floodwater, were caused by vehicles getting stuck in high water.
Avoid driving through covered roadways. That's where we're losing the most people. Stay off the roads. If you hit water, turn around. It's not worth dying.
Much of the U.S. is facing another round of biting weather, says National Weather Service meteorologist Bob Borovec.
There's still some big winter weather impact.
The northern plains facing life-threatening cold, tornado watches issued for parts of Georgia and Florida, while snow and sleet remain in the forecast for the Northeast. I'm Julie Walker.
The Trump administration plans to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn a lower court ruling that ordered the head of a government watchdog agency to be returned to his post after being fired by President Trump. Hampton Dellinger was fired from the Office of Special Counsel earlier this month. Dellinger then sued Trump, citing protections enacted by Congress that require an administration to show cause before firing someone before their 5-year term is ended. Now, a federal district court temporarily blocked Dellinger's dismissal while it considers the case, and the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit late Saturday declined to overrule that decision. The Justice Department said pretty quick after that it plans to appeal the Supreme Court. The Justice Department described the district court's ruling as an unprecedented assault on the separation of powers. Until now, the DOJ said, as far as we're aware, no court in American history has wielded an injunction to force the president to retain an agency head whom the president believes shouldn't be entrusted with executive power. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spent the weekend in Israel meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister on what the future may look like in Gaza. John Stolness has more on Rubio's Middle East trip.
In a news conference, the two leaders indicated they are ready to move forward with President Donald Trump's plan to move Palestinians out of the Gaza Strip, with Rubio saying the status quo isn't working.
Not the same tired ideas of the past, but something that's new, bold, and something that frankly took courage and vision in order to outline. And it may have shocked and surprised many. But what cannot continue is the same cycle where we repeat over and over again and wind up in the exact same place.
Rubio discussed the plan with Netanyahu, who said he and President Trump have a common strategy for Gaza.
President Trump is the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. And the visit in Washington reflected that in every way. And your visit here reflects it in every way.
The first round of the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is set to expire in 2 weeks. Dozens of Israeli hostages have yet to be released by the Palestinian terror group.
We have a common strategy, and we can't always share the details of this strategy with the public, including when the gates of hell will be opened, as they surely will if all our hostages are not released until the last one of them.
Trump's Mideast envoy Steve Witkoff told Fox News Sunday morning phase 2 of the peace negotiations is going to begin soon, and that they've had very productive talks with mediators in Egypt and Qatar. Rubio will now head to Saudi Arabia, where he's leading a delegation that will engage with officials from Moscow about ending Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It comes on the heels of a phone call between Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin last week, in which the two men agreed to begin negotiations, ending the U.S.'s policy of Russian isolation. The president speaking to reporters upon exiting Air Force One.
We're moving along. We're trying to get a peace with Russia, Ukraine, and we're working very hard on it. It's a war that should have never started.
Do you expect Zelensky to be involved in these conversations? What will his role be?
I do. He will be involved, yes.
Trump says he believes Putin does want to make peace. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in the United Arab Emirates over the weekend for negotiations on prisoner exchanges between Russia and Ukraine. John Stolness, Washington.
The holiday retail sales figures are in. So what did the numbers look like? We'll tell you when America in the Morning returns after these messages. Ukraine is refusing to sign off on a U.S. offer of support. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he told his ministers to not sign off on a proposed agreement with the United States that would have given the U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals as compensation for the support the U.S. already has given Ukraine, as well as future support. The proposal was a key part of Zelensky's talks with Vice President J.D. Vance on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference on Friday. And Zelensky says the offer was too focused on U.S. interests.
It's important that Vice President understood me that if we want to sign something, we have to understand that it will work and it will be very positive for both nations and it will bring money and security.
The White House says the offer was an excellent opportunity, and by Zelensky not signing it, he's being short-sighted. I'm Donna Warder.
Utah's governor has signed a collective bargaining ban that experts are calling one of the most restrictive labor laws in the United States, despite overwhelming opposition from union members. Beginning July 1st, unions serving Utah teachers, firefighters, also police officers, transit workers, and other public employees will be banned from negotiating on their behalf for better wages and working conditions. Now, Governor Spencer Cox announced his decision on Friday after a week of rallies outside his office. Thousands of union members from the public and private sector urged the governor to veto the bill. The Republican-controlled legislature had narrowly approved it after its sponsors abandoned a proposed compromise that would have removed the outright ban. Cox said he's disappointed that the process didn't ultimately deliver the compromise that at one point he said was on the table and that some stakeholders had accepted. Retail sales saw a slump after the holidays. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
Retail sales fell in January as U.S. consumers pulled back on spending after the holidays. The Commerce Department report for January shows a drop of 0.9% from the previous month, after 2 months of gains. Analysts say extraordinarily cold weather in much of the country and the wildfires in Los Angeles may have played a part. People put off purchasing big-ticket items like automobiles, furniture, and home and garden goods, and even online retail was down 1.9%. While employment data suggests the job market is still strong, the retail report comes on the heels of an uptick in inflation led by soaring prices for eggs. I'm Jennifer King.
Investigators in Wyoming are looking into Friday's 26-car pileup inside a tunnel on I-80. They say they found a third victim. The crash sparked a fire inside the tunnel that completely destroyed 6 commercial vehicles and 2 passenger vehicles. At least 5 people seriously hurt in that accident. Most of the wreckage has since been removed, with fewer than 10 vehicles still inside that tunnel. That, according to the Wyoming Highway Patrol. Snow is actually slowing the work of federal and state investigators as they went car by car trying to reconstruct the scene and figure out what happened. Federal employees at more agencies today waiting to see if they'll be subject to the next rounds of mass layoffs triggered by President Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, led by Elon Musk. Correspondent Rich Johnson has details.
The Food and Drug Administration and the Internal Revenue Service were the latest federal agencies to be hit with firings, mostly of new employees who were on probation. An email notice to targeted FDA workers obtained by Bloomberg said they were not fit for continued employment because their, quote, ability, knowledge, and skills do not fit the agency's current needs. Also, thousands of probationary IRS workers are set to be let go right in the middle of tax return filing season. Some are the very same people who were told they could not accept the DOGE buyout offer until after the filing season deadline. As you may imagine, many workers are not happy to be suddenly unemployed at the hands of what this worker calls
people who know absolutely nothing about how the government works. They know nothing about what we do.
That's Lynette, who was part of a recent protest inside the Health and Human Services headquarters. She said she and others were interviewed by DOGE staffers before being fired.
We're interviewed by these DOGE people, 15-minute interviews, to try to justify our work.
Another DOGE protester, Dante, summed up his feelings.
And I feel like this is a moment where we are really up against an oncoming dictatorship.
Along with the FDA, DOGE instigated firings at the Department of Health and Human Services under its new leader, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., have targeted the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Also seeing cuts, 2 research agencies at the Department of Agriculture, about 1,000 Veterans Affairs workers. the U.S. Forest Service, the Office of Personnel Management, the Education Department, the Small Business Administration, the General Services Administration, and the Energy Department's National Nuclear Security Administration. That's the agency that maintains our nuclear weapons. Once someone realized how critical that work is, some firings were rescinded, but the NNSA hasn't been able to reach everyone because all those who were fired lost access to their federal email accounts. I'm Richard Johnson.
Tech correspondent Chuck Palm reports that federal IT workers were also on the chopping block.
Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency team has been sending out termination notices to a group of federal IT workers. For the past few weeks, the U.S. Digital Service, who have worked as technology experts for the U.S. government since the Obama era, have been sitting in limbo. Termination notices have gone out to more than a dozen people starting Friday and came from the U.S. DOJ service and cited President Donald Trump's January 20th executive order establishing DOJ as the reason. Bloomberg, citing a copy of one of the letters, said, "Due to the reoccurring and changes to the USDS's mission, USDS no longer has need for your services." Before DOJ came in and started cleaning house, the USDS offered different IT services and other help to federal agencies. According to the note, remaining staffers were told by US DOJ that they must return to a physical office place by April 15th. Bitcoin trading flat at 96,000 and Ethereum at 2680. For more tech news, follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Robert Workman has sports.
NBA All-Star Sunday in San Francisco, another new wrinkle in the midseason exhibition. This time around, 4 teams with former hoop stars Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, and Kenny Smith as general managers, choosing up sides from among the players voted in earlier this month. Candace Parker, the former WNBA great, was the honorary GM of the Rising Stars team that won that event on Friday. On the court last night, Chuck's Global Stars beat Kenny's Young Stars 41-32, and Shaq's OGs topped Candace's Rising Stars 42-35. The games were played without a clock. First team to 40 points declared the winner. In the final, the OGs routed the Global Stars 42-25. Hometown hero Steph Curry sinking 4 three-pointers in front of an adoring crowd to take home the All-Star MVP award just 6 months after he won the Olympic gold medal in Paris.
We're not here without that generation and every generation since that has paved the way for us to play this game and have fun at the highest level, and I'm very appreciative of it.
2 of the biggest names expected to be on display sat out last night's tournament with injuries. LeBron James was a late scratch with lingering discomfort in his left foot and ankle, ending his record streak of 20 consecutive All-Star starts. And Anthony Edwards of the Timberwolves sat out with a groin injury. The regular season resumes on Wednesday. College basketball, the top 2 teams in the Big East squared off Sunday. 9th-ranked St. John's beat number 24 Creighton 79-73. The Johnnies take a 2-game lead in the conference with 3 weeks left in the regular season. William Byron won the Daytona 500. If that sounds familiar, it's his 2nd consecutive victory, outlasting more than 3 hours of weather delays yesterday and avoiding a string of late race crashes that claimed numerous other contenders.
I was really fortunate to miss Christopher when they were wrecking time. I think I barely got clipped by him and just was able to get through that wreck and keep going. And honestly, yeah, it's just, being in the right place is critical, but I feel like our team put a lot of effort into this race and don't want to undermine that. That was a really great car we had.
Byron's overtime victory was the 10th all-time for Hendrick Motorsports at the Great American Race. That moves them ahead of Petty Enterprises for the record. Tyler Reddick finished 2nd. 2-time Daytona champ Jimmy Johnson came in 3rd, and pole sitter Chase Briscoe finished 4th. Hockey, the round-robin portion of the Four Nations face-off wraps up today in Boston, with Canada facing Finland this afternoon, followed by the U.S. and Sweden tonight. Saturday night, the U.S. beat Canada 3-1 in a rough-and-tumble throwback to the rivalry games of days gone by. The contest starting with 3 fights in the game's first 9 seconds. Though the tone was set before the puck was even dropped, the Bell Center crowd in Montreal booing the U.S. national anthem. Once the hockey game broke out, Connor McDavid gave the hosts the lead, but the U.S. fairly dominated from there, Jake Gensel scoring twice, Dylan Larkin adding a goal and an assist to earn the U.S. a spot in Thursday's championship final. Finland edged Sweden in overtime in the other game Saturday, so those two and Canada all enter today's contests tied with 2 points apiece. That means there could be a U.S.-Canada rematch for the title. That's Monday Sports.
And we are in the midst of award season in Hollywood. Stick around, Kevin Carr's got entertainment headlines. Don't go anywhere. Award season continues as the BAFTAs and WGA awards were held this weekend. Correspondent Kevin Carr has the details on who won big.
Award season continues to move forward with no clear Oscar frontrunner.
Who walks 1,000 miles to host one BAFTAs more.
On Sunday in London, Scottish actor and former Doctor Who, David Tennant, hosted the British Academy of Film and Television Arts annual awards, and the winners were spread around several films.
This is a conclave, it's not a war.
It is a war.
The Vatican Drama Conclave won 4 awards, including Best Film and Outstanding British Film.
Tell me, why is an accomplished foreign architect shoveling coal here in Philadelphia?
Once seen as a shoo-in frontrunner, the architectural drama The Brutalist took home awards for Best Director Brady Corbett and Best Actor Adrian Brody, while Dark Horse Mikey Madison won Best Actress for Honora. Even the controversial Emilia Perez won several awards, including Best Film Not in the English Language and Best Supporting Actress for Zoe Saldana.
Films are supposed to change hearts and just challenge minds, and I hope that Emilia Perez did something like this.
And it wouldn't be British awards without these screen icons.
Morning, Gromit. How's my favorite pooch?
Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul won Best Animated Film. Also in award news, the Writers Guild of America held their annual TV awards with more predictable results. Hulu's Shogun won Best New Series and Best Drama, while HBO's Hacks won Best Comedy.
Did you ever think you'd be back on top? Yes.
I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Monday, February 17th, 2025 is produced by Alex Hinton. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout, and this is Westwood One.